Hello, the date is 11/14/2017. Time is 3:12 p.m. Sitting in the garage doing a journal. I have to say something right up front here, and I know this is a slightly dangerous thing to say, but I was thinking about it upstairs, and I was even talking to myself like, "Oh, this is how I'm going to say it on the journal." So I might end up making a fool of myself because you know how when you rehearse things in your head, they never go out. They never come out in real life like you want them to. But I don't like Frank Zappa, or I should say I don't see him as a. That's the wrong thing. I actually do like Frank Zappa, but the thing is, I don't see him as an artist. I see him as a critic, because his music. I mean, if you listen to it, it's just like he's just making fun of various people. You know, he's like every song he does is a parody. There's no there's no real feeling coming at him. He's just kind of making fun of people, and I think, that's valuable. I think you should, there should be criticism of music because it keeps musicians on their feet, so they can't just get away with dumb shit. But I don't like this idea that Frank Zappa was some musical genius. Because he was very, very talented at playing the guitar, and he made a lot of albums, and he had his own unique style, but I don't see his music as like a genuine sort of feeling. He was a critic, and I think that's how he should be viewed. He should be seen as a music critic. And the same goes for Ariel Pink, by the way, who I also like Ariel Pink, but he makes parodies of music. He isn't making fucking things so he's making a fucking parody of music, and it shouldn't be seen as, art. Or I don't know. But you know what I mean? It's like it's trying to have both things at once. Like, you want to be seen as this person who's out there being vulnerable, which is, a real musician. But then you don't want to fucking show any vulnerability yourself. Show me one moment on a fucking Frank Zappa record or an Ariel Pink record where they're being real, vulnerable people. It doesn't exist. And so, you don't get to have both, getting seen as... And, at least John Lennon, who was a critic, who was outspoken about shit in the same way that Ariel Pink or more so Frank Zappa, I guess. At least John Lennon had fucking vulnerable moments, in my life. He has all these songs where he's, putting himself really out there, and just Frank Zappa and Ariel Pink, they don't have any of that. And so, while their contributions are extremely valuable as they're valuable as critiques, not as pieces of expression, and so that should be seen as such. There needs to be a division between fucking John Lennon and Frank Zappa, because they're doing two fundamentally different things. One is, an honest expression, and the other is a critique of the expression. It's like a meta observation, like a meta analysis, and so that's how I see things. But Ariel Pink is a very good songwriter, I should say. He knows how to write a melody, and he's underrated in that regard, I think. And, same thing for Frank Zappa, though I think Frank Zappa to a lesser degree. Because, Frank Zappa, he, later in his career, he had those, orchestral things where he's writing, symphonies and stuff. But even those are kind of, sarcastic. I don't really get any, genuine feeling from them. They're more like explorations in, weird song scales or whatever. That didn't make sense, but you know what I mean. They don't evoke any emotion in me. They're kind of they're analytical. There's something you think about, and that can be valuable, but they just feel like critiques of music. Oh, well, look what I can do. I'm doing Frank Zappa's voice. Look what I can do. You can make music anything. It doesn't matter if what you do, Frank Zappa genius critic, but as a songwriter, as a musician, I don't think he deserves as much. I don't think he deserves as much credit as he gets as just like a songwriting force, or because I mean most people don't. When you think of Frank Zappa, you think of Frank Zappa the critic, like on fucking Crossfire or whatever he was on, when he's talking to that guy about music censorship. That's what you think of when you think of Frank Zappa. You don't think of him as you don't think of his music, is what I'm saying. And just there is no Frank Zappa, there is no Frank Zappa songs that have like really clawed their way into the public conscious. And I think there's a reason for that, because his music is a critique of music and not a it's not like actual music. Okay, so that's fucking okay, and that's what I wanted to say about Frank Zappa. I'm sure there's more actually with that, but okay. So there was another thing I thought of. I wrote two things that I wanted to write down today, and I don't know how I follow that. Well, I mean that's yeah. The other thing I wrote down was King being shown Jester or something. Yeah, I kept having this thought in my head for some reason. I don't know why. I think because there was this commercial with like a king and like how a king sits at a table and there's like a feast in front of him, and he's just like, there's like a feast. I kept having this thought that some like jester was trying to impress the king, like as the king was sitting down on his throne and then the jester's like in front of him. That old scene. And the jester, like, he wasn't doing it well enough, but the king had sort of like this modern reaction. Instead of like saying something like, "Oh, send him to the boiler at once," he doesn't say that. He says something like, he goes like, this was the exact thing in my head that he was doing. He was going, nah, like just how someone you wouldn't expect. Like it's just like how in the 60s people kind of moved a little bit differently in the 60s, like than they do now. Like there's just a very subtle variation in the way that people move. I'm taking like somebody's like reaction to something like nah, like something like that. And just the king is doing that, and I don't know why he's doing that. But do you remember that Denny Green NFL thing where he's like, "The Bears are who we thought they were." That sharp inhale before he says that, like that. I see the king doing that and going, nah, like, and just like shaking his head like in disgust. And I don't know what that thought means, but I keep having it, so I thought I'd say it. Yeah. So 2 minutes left. Talked about the Frank Zappa thing for a while. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm probably going to go upstairs. I haven't started even writing the fucking rock video, the how rock can be fixed video. But I feel like I'm going to start tonight. I want to stop drinking coffee because it's fucked up my... I feel like, because it's just, I'm not anxious, but I have this like underlying vague sense of dread that I didn't have before I started drinking coffee. So I want to... I want to start drinking coffee. Stop drinking coffee. Sorry. Yeah. So I got nothing to say now, but I'll get through this next minute here. Yeah, I went over to the Giant today. I got a rotisserie chicken for myself. It tasted like shit today. The rotisserie chicken that they had, it tasted like shit. And I don't know what the hell they think. I feel like they microwaved it or something. Like it had been out all day, and then they said, all right, well, instead of throwing it out like they should have, they just said, we'll save this for tomorrow, and we'll sell it tomorrow. And then they just microwaved it again and then put it out. And it tasted like shit, and I have a good mind to call them and tell them that, actually. Like, just don't do that. What are you doing? It's bad for business. That's a short-term... It's like, it's a short-term thinking. You're not going to get many pleased customers when you're just trying to create the appearance of a good store instead of actually making a good store. Like, they have their produce section, it looks, picture perfect, but a lot of the time, actually, their produce is fucked up, and, it's rotten, and, they gotta get their shit together. Stop making a fucking appearance of something. Okay, I'm done. Goodbye.